Very useful. Okay, fantastic. Oh, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for the change of time. You guys are very flexible. Baruch Hashem. Now I'm
It's
going.
very, very good for us senior citizens who need to go to bed early. So
Oh,
it suits us.
well, I can put it this time. Always if it suits everybody, as far as I
No,
know.
if it suits everybody only.
All right, yeah. I think, as far as I know, I think it's okay by me. I think I'd rather enjoy it, actually. I agree with you. Birds wake me up early in the morning, so it's
Oh,
better to go to
yes.
bed early rather than wait. Yeah, absolutely. So fantastic. Okay,
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. We'll have to see how it works for the people in Hutzlaritz, but
Yeah.
uh, but if it works for them, okay, then it's good. But good for me too. Wonderful. Okay, great. Now then, let's start off with our. Here we are. And we're going to share my screen, which I will remember to do. Okay. All right then. So, ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשתחוויה שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומה חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה, על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ולימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך כריח ניחוח, ותאציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודת הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל ניכשל בדברים אלו, ובזכותם תראה עינינו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כאדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגורלי. Amen.
Amen.
Can you ratzon? So we want to dedicate the learning for the safety and the coming home of the hostages, and to the safety and victory for the soldiers, and that they should be protected in all their endeavors, and that the angels should guard them from every possible way. Amen.
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 And refuah shalema for the wounded.
Amen.
Mamash. Okay, so we're going to do our learning in their merit. Bezrat Hashem. So we're going to start off today with Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Yes, that's what we're going to start off with. And just to begin, no, we'll start off straight with him, I think. Now, where am I? Is this it, the one? Oh, yeah, got it. Oh, amazing. Stop share and do share. And there it is. There you go. Right. There you go. For Hashem. We found it. All right then. So the beginning of the Sidra is that God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, and he tells him about Shmittah year. Okay? And it's quite an interesting question. Why is it that just Shmittah year is mentioned on Mount Sinai. I mean, the whole Torah was given on Mount Sinai. Why suddenly Shmittah year? Okay. And it's this is something that in a way Rabbi Baruch Shalom relates to. Okay, so let's have a look and see what he says. Mein Shmittah Etzel Har Sinai. You know what Shmittah year is, don't you? I mean, everybody here knows. Like they're meant to rest the land, let the land lie fallow every 7 years. Okay. Now, it's very interesting because when I was at school obviously in England, we learnt history of England, and in medieval times, farmers knew about resting the pastures, and they would rotate the pastures round so that every year a different bit of pasture would rest, and they would grow the food in the other 3 bits. They would divide the field into 4 bits and 4 quarters, and they would each year one different piece of the field would be resting. Okay. But I think Shmittah year is a totally different proposition, because Shmittah means the whole of the land of Israel resting all together, okay, which requires a tremendous degree of faith that we're going to be able to eat, all right, in the 7th year and the 8th year, because we're not sowing either. It's a challenge, and to be real, to be honest, certainly in the time of the Second Temple, they sort of found ways to somehow go around it a little bit. And in Israel, modern Israel, we haven't yet managed it, but we're getting there. Each Shmittah year that we do, there's a greater participation of the farmers in Otzar Beit Din, making a communal effort to deal with the issue of feeding the country, okay, which is, obviously a tremendous issue. So the different rabbis came up with different solutions, all right, none of which are perfect. None of the solutions are perfect. They've all got different solutions. But what's interesting to Rav Baruch Shalom Ashlag is not the practical application so much, is what is it about? What does it mean? All right. And so first of all, why Inyan Shmittah Etzel Har Sinai? Why is it that this mitzvah of all the mitzvot is mentioned that God tells it to Moses on Mount Sinai, when obviously he told all the mitzvot on Mount Sinai? Tshuva, answer. Shmittah nikret Malchut. Shmittah, which is the 7th year, okay, is designated as the Malchut. Okay, we have Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. It's the 7th Sephirah. Now, the Malchut is not just 7th in line. It's got some very powerful attributes which the others don't have. And the reality is that the real vessel, the real area which is desire, is the Malchut. Okay? The other Sefirot are, Rabbi Ashlag compares them more to eyes, ears, senses, our eyes, our ears, our nose, taste, things like that. So the Sefirot are channels by which we're able to receive the light, but the area which actually receives it is the Malchut. Like, for example, I'm using my eyes to see a palm tree outside the window, okay? Now, is my eye enjoying seeing the palm tree, or am I enjoying seeing the palm tree? I'm enjoying seeing the palm tree, obviously, okay? My eye is just the means by which, it's sort of the mechanical means by which I can see the palm tree. All right, which of course it's a godly thing, it's a wonderful thing, but still it's the desire is the Malchut. So the issue of the Malchut is the real vessel where we want to receive. And so in his first sentence here, he says, Shmittah relates to the Malchut. where we want to receive. Like I said, I mean, the 7th year is we have to stop, doing all the agricultural work is quite an issue. And that relates to the Malchut, which is our desire to receive. That we need to place all our desire to receive so that it will be for the sake of heaven. In other words, that I won't want to be receiving for myself. I'm only wanting to be receiving what God wants me to receive in order so that he can carry out his mission on the planet, his mission, that whatever he wants to bring forth is the reason why we receive, but we're not receiving for ourselves, okay? And the way we do that is that we let go of our rational mind as much as we can, in the sense that, not that we, again, you've got to get this right. It's not that we chop our heads off, okay, and pretend they don't exist. That's not what it means. What it means is that the thrust of our work needs to be through faith and trust in God, okay? And we use our rational mind and we use all our faculties, all our abilities, including our intellectual ones, everything subordinate to that, okay, as the servant of the Malchut, of the Shekhinah, okay, because the collective desire for the sake of heaven, the Malchut is another name for it, is the Shekhinah, the divine presence within. So it doesn't mean we chop our heads off. It means that we use everything that we have, and we use it because God gave it to us, but the overall intention is to serve to serve God, to serve each other, okay, to give unconditionally, and that is called l'shem shamayim. Hainu, that is to say, shelo lekabel shum davar, not to receive anything. Now, obviously, again, this is very short. The way Rabbi Baruch Shalom is writing here is kind of like shorthand, okay? So it means not to receive anything superfluous for myself alone. All right. Now, obviously, we do have to receive. We have to receive the food, the necessary food and water, shelter, sufficient money in the culture that we're in that we can get by. All right. So we can pay the electricity bills and that, but not to go into luxuries. That's what he means. All right. Not to go into, we all have that boundary. We all know where that boundary is for ourselves. Okay. All right. Where when we're moving from what's necessary to what is not necessary. Okay. So Shmittah refers to the Malchut, which needs to be for the sake of heaven, which means not to receive unnecessary, superfluous extras, which are for myself alone, and I'm not giving to anybody else. Now, sometimes, we do need to receive in order to give. We don't have what to give. It's very difficult. But lo lekabel shum davar means not to receive unnecessarily for myself alone. That's what it means. I'm cutting myself off from God, God forbid. So on this comes the very relevant question. And if you were to say, what shall we eat in the 7th year? Klomar, אם אנחנו לא רוצים שום תמורה עבור יגיעה בתורה המצוות, מאין יהיו מזונות? If we don't want any recompense, any reward for our labor in the Torah, for our practice of the Torah, in faith and in giving unconditionally, and in the mitzvot, where the mitzvot between man and his fellow man, or between man and God, okay? If we're going to do it all for the sake of heaven, menu mizonot, where will I get my oomph from, my motivation, okay? If we're doing it without getting anything back that's obvious to us. Okay, it's very difficult for the human being to work like that. It's hard for us to work without an obvious reward. Because the will to receive for ourselves alone, which is our basic makeup, wants a reward. Okay, so where am I going to get the if you like, the petrol from, the motive power? All right. Al ze katuv v'tzaviti et birchati, and on this is written, I have commanded my blessing. Wow. Wow. I will command my blessing. In other words, don't worry. Don't worry about it, okay? We do the work unconditionally, the blessing will come. There's a saying in the Gemara which says, Yagati umatzati ta'amin. Rabbi Ashlag, that means I labored and I found, believe it. Okay? Now, Rabbi Ashlag, in his introduction to the study of the 10 Sephirot, discusses this in quite a lot of detail. And he says that's a very unusual saying. He says normally you would say, I labored and I bought, or I labored and I earned. According to the labor, according to the work, I get the appropriate reward. Okay? But that's not the way according to the Kabbalah. It's not the way the Torah works. The reason is that if we were to get the labor, do the work, and get an obvious reward for it, in a obviously kind of thing, we would become mitzvah junkies. And we would start doing the mitzvahs because we would obviously expect the reward. All right, like you put the money in the slot and out comes the reward kind of thing. Once my kids were very young, and my husband and I took them to Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes, the kever there. It was beautiful there, beautiful, beautiful. And they were absolutely thrilled, not by Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes particularly. They were a bit too young for that, really, I suppose. But there was a slot machine there. And instead of having, chocolates and crisps and things in the machine, you put your money in and out came a little book of Tehillim, or you put your money in and out came a Ner de Shama or something, and they thought it was terrific. But that would be, I labored in Torah mitzvot and I get the reward. But that's not what the idea is here. The idea is if we labor in Torah, okay, then we have still to have faith in the blessing, okay? Yagati umatzati. I labor and God will give me his grace. Okay, so you have to do it kind of like without expectation, just relying on the blessing, relying on the grace. All right? Okay. If there's any questions, call out. V'yesh li shol she'ela, and we need to ask the question. Ma'hu ma shekatuv v'chi tomu ma nochal b'shana hashvi'it, and if you say, what will we eat on the 7th year? Shashe'ela hi im anu mekablim et malchut shamayim hanekret shvi'it למעלה מהדעת, היינו שאין לנו שום פרנסה מזה שתפרנס אותנו, אלא הכל לתועלת השם. אם כן, מה נאכל? מאין יהיה לנו מזונות שמחומר הדלק לעבודה? זה באה התשובה, וציוויתי את ברכתי, שהשם ישלח את ברכה, וזה נקרא מעשי ניסים. הלא אין סומכין על הנס, כלומר, אלא שזה גם כן תשובה למעלה מהדעת. And Rabbi Baruch Ashlag takes this another step further. And he says like this, well, he says, we need to understand what's written. And if you say, what will we eat in the 7th year? That the question is, if we were to receive the Malchut Shamayim, the governance of God. That is to say, not according to what we think, but according to faith, having faith in God, giving unconditionally. Governance of the Shekhinah, all right? So we take the Malchut, our desire, and donate it to the Shekhinah, okay? Which is called Shmittah, and it's called Lamala Mehadat. Lamala Mehadat, above knowledge. What is, we hear this phrase, I'm sure you've heard it before, faith above knowledge. What on earth does that mean? Okay? What it means is like this. Knowledge is something we receive. Faith is something we give. So giving is closer to the Creator because the Creator himself is giving unconditionally, and he doesn't receive anything because who's he going to receive from? He doesn't need anything. God is entirely whole, okay, not lacking anything at all. So giving is more in affinity of form with the Creator, whereas receiving is opposite of form from the Creator. So if we receive the Malchut of Shemaim, our governance, in faith, okay, therefore we are acting in a paradigm of consciousness which is closer to that of the Creator. That's what it means. Whereas the consciousness of receiving is not so close to the Creator because the Creator himself does not receive, and therefore it doesn't have affinity of form. All right? So this raises up the question. Since we're not going to get any direct reward for our labor in Torah mitzvot, but everything is for the sake of God, in that case, what will we eat? And not just physically. Where will we get the petrol? Where will we get the benzene? Where will we get the motivation to do the work? Why? Because our nature is built that we want to receive for ourselves alone. We want to receive. That's our built-in nature. So because of our built-in nature wants to receive, okay, therefore we are prepared to put out work, okay, providing we can see there's a reward as a consequence. All right, it can be a physical reward, or it can be monetary reward, it can be emotional reward, but nothing. All right, it's a bit tricky. All right, so like for example, a person goes to work and he's prepared to get up early in the morning to rush off to work and to labor all day, sometimes even on work that's not very congenial to him. Why? Because at the end of the day, he gets the money, which he can then use to spend on what he wants. So the will to receive is willing to do that. Okay? What it finds it extremely difficult to do is to work without a reward, or at least a reward it cannot see, or it can't, or right. Okay, and this is in fact what God is asking us to do here. This is what the Torah is teaching us to do. All right. So he says, "Ma nochal," what will we eat? Meaning, where will we get the motivation to do this work? Al zeba tshuva. This is what the Torah answers us. V'tziviti et birchati. Don't worry. I will command my blessing. Shashem yishlach et bracha. God will send the blessing. Okay? V'zenika maseh nisim. And this is a miracle, be'etzem, that God sends us that desire. He sends it to us. V'lo ein somchin ala nes. One moment. Rabbi Ashlag's not finished yet. He says, 1 minute. Should we be relying on miracles? The Gemara says in general, we should not rely on miracles. We should do our own work. But the answer is that the grace will come, the blessing will come, is also we have to have faith. Because it's not this direct connection. It's not wages, all right? Or direct rewards. It's simply the faith Now, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag addresses this issue from another direction in his book, the Sephirah of Malchut. And he says, where will we get the motivation for doing the mitzvot when we don't get a reward? Okay? And he says there is one way. And the way that he explains it is like this. There is a pleasure for for example, for a younger person to serve an older person he looks up to. You see this with the little kids, the younger brother, okay? The big brother comes home, and as far as the younger brother is concerned, he's his hero, all right? Whatever he tells him to do, he does, because it's a pleasure when the younger one serves the older one, all right? And we also have pleasure when we are given the opportunity to serve. So by meditating on the greatness of God, the greatness of the Creator, when we really meditate on that, then we realize what incredible, incredible privilege it is to serve God in any way that He suggests to us. We get the pleasure. We get pleasure from just that realization. All right? So the realization that God has given us the opportunity to serve Him, that alone gives us tremendous pleasure. All right? And in order to get that pleasure, in order to feel that pleasure and motivation, we nearly need to meditate and have faith in the greatness of God. That's the key to it all. The more we can meditate in the greatness of God, and particularly the greatness of His love, all right, that's how we get the motivation. And to be able to meditate on the greatness of His love is God's blessing to us. That's His blessing. That's His blessing, because God is hidden in the world. So to be able to meditate on the love of God is the greatest blessing. You know, it's not easy. It isn't easy, but especially in times like this. But that's meditate that on the love of God. Now, I have to say, that I suggest, in order to do that, the place to begin is in your own life. When we look in our own lives, we can see the detail of our lives, and each one of us know intimately the love of God, because we see it in our lives. All right? We see it very clearly in our lives. If you tend to look outside at the world, okay, at the beginning, when we look at the world, it's very difficult to see. All right? They've got I have not watched it, and I quite frankly suggest to people that they don't watch the film that's coming out or has come out of these poor girls who were taken hostage, because honestly and truthfully, to witness violence doesn't do the soul any good at all. However sorry we are, we know we're sorry, and we cry for them. But to watch violent films doesn't do the soul good. Okay, so I suggest as much as possible to keep away from that kind of thing. But if we look on the outside of things, we don't understand anything. Okay, and we ask questions. But if we look in our own lives, that's a great place to see the love of God, because each one of us in the detail of our lives can see the greatness of God and the great love that He gives us. And in fact, in the introduction to the study of the 10 Sephirot, we first recognize that God has the 4 stages of acquiring the love of God. And we first acquire it by realizing that God's relationship to us, who has always given us goodness, is first. And then, only then, we can take the next step and realize that God has only given good to all the rest of the world. But those are 2 separate steps. So to meditate on the greatness of God is the blessing. Okay, how are we doing here? Right. Any questions so far? All right. Because in the way of nature, that's our will to receive. That's what we said. If you go to work to earn some money, you get money. אבל אם האדם עובד בדברים שאומרים לנו בפירוש שלא משלמים עבור העבודה, אם כן מאין יקחו פרנסה. But if a person is working for matters that they tell us clearly that we're not going to get a reward, a direct reward for the work, where's he going to take his Parnasa? What Parnasa is like what sustains him, okay? Parnasa is really sustenance, okay? It's not just money, it can be anything that sustains you. Nimtza, לפי זה, שאסור לאדם לתת תשובות על פרנסה מצד השכל. We find that is actually forbidden, okay, for a person to give answers to himself or herself about where he's going to get the sustenance from, which is going to sustain him to do her work for God, from the rational mind, because the rational mind doesn't understand this. All right? Rak lamin lashem, only to believe in God, כמו שכתוב, וציוויתי את ברכתי בשנה hashishit, that to believe that I have commanded my blessing for the 6th year. Shu b'chinat yesod, okay, which is the aspect of yesod. Okay, if you look at the Sephirot, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Yesod is the 6th one, okay, and that's Yesod is the Tzaddik, Yosef HaTzaddik. Shu b'chinat mashpia, who is the aspect of the giver, the channel of goodness. All right? Klomar she'atem tavdu b'kabalat malchut shamayim b'li sachar. In other words, your job is to work to accept the governance of heaven, to take upon yourself to do everything with faith, without looking for a reward from your rational mind. Hanikra rak bal manat lashpia, which is called only for the sake of giving. But this brings us to unity with the Sephirah of Yesod. Okay, the Sephirah of Yesod is the Zerampin. Vaza Yesod yashpia Malchut. And then the Zerampin, the Yesod, can give its light to the Malchut. Why? Because it's now in affinity of form. Just as the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just as the Zerampin is giving, then, and we're giving through faith, they're in unity, then the blessing can flow. So it flows kind of like by naturally. So, okay, so, all right. So my question then is, so when the blessing flows, okay, and we start to receive it, on what basis do we receive it? Do we receive it now from the fact is, oh, okay, God, now I'm receiving the blessing and everything is fine. So I can stop the faith and I can just go to receiving for the sake of giving. Just, I'm receiving now, so everything's good. But the sages tell us no. They say, that was the way of Esau. That's the way of Haman. Okay? The way of the tzaddik, he prefers to stay in affinity of form. And we said that giving is more in affinity of form than receiving. So when the flow of light, the realization that God is here with us, the blessing is with us, okay? When that flow of light comes, what do we take it for? We take it as testimony, as witness that the way of faith is the right way. And we carry on giving, and we carry on doing it in faith. And we don't chuck faith out the window. On the contrary, we say, wow, this is the right way. I'm going to carry on giving. So in other words, when the blessing arrives, we don't just suddenly start receiving. We say, the light coming means that we're on the right path. So what do? We carry on giving in faith. We carry on giving to God. This is the inner meaning of what happened at the Red Sea. Okay? You can't have bigger proof than that. All right? The people cried out to God. The waters parted. The people passed on dry land. And the waters came back just at the right moment to drown the enemies. All right? Okay, and what does it say? V'yaminu b'Hashem u'Moshe avdo. And they believed in God and Moses, his servant. In other words, they did not fall into the trap of saying, now I just have to receive. No, they carried on with their belief. They carried on with giving. They took it as testimony, okay? Testimony that God, that the faith in God is the right way. And that you will receive upon yourselves the issue of Shmittah. That is to receive the governance of God without asking from the Aretz, which is the Malchut, shetitain peirot, that it should give rewards. In this way we merit the light of Torah. This is the inner meaning of you shall do my statutes, okay? Uphold them, make them real, okay? And you shall dwell on the land in safety forever. Now, you shall dwell on the land. Does it mean the physical land of Israel? Or what land does it mean? In general, in the Kabbalah, the word land means the desire. Eretz Israel, the land of Yashar El, the land of Israel. My humble opinion, but it's very humble, is that they are both connected. All right? That it's easier to have faith in the land of Israel, in the physical land of Israel. The physical land of Israel has the same spiritual root as faith in God. We couldn't be here if we didn't have faith in God. The whole of the people of Israel, in my view, is amazing because we're here. Okay? And we have faith just by the fact that we're here. All right? So, the Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, is also in the Kabbalah, Eretz Yashar El, the desire of straight to God, which is affinity of form. But I think that the reality of the two combined together is the strongest. The physical and the spiritual together is the strongest of all. Vishavtem ala haaretz levetach, and you shall dwell in the land forever. That is the way through, is the way of faith. I personally find this topic very topical right now. That the dwelling with the Malchut, of the governance will be levetach. It'll be good, it'll be sure. In complete wholeness. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I have sort of a personal issue. I feel bad because I'm just kind of sitting here and enjoying everything, and the soldiers are fighting there. So to kind of salve my conscience, will go and volunteer to peel vegetables or everything or something like that. That's not giving just for the sake of giving. That's giving so that I can receive peace of mind for myself.
Okay, that's a very good question. All right, that's an excellent question. Let me just stop the share a second. Okay, fantastic. That was a brilliant question. All right, so okay, so the Gemara basically asks, in a sense, the same sort of question. All right, and the answer to that question is because since we are built from our wills to receive for ourselves alone, and we have to get to the will to give unconditionally, we can't do it in one jump, okay? We have to take it step by step, all right? So they answered that question and they said, La'olam ya'asok adam b'torah shelo lishma, ki me'lo lishma yavo lishma. A person should always practice the Torah, even if it's not for its own sake, because from not for its own sake would come to for its own sake. All right? So the answer to your question is like, I like to imagine it as a sort of a wide river, okay? Yeah. It's a very wide river, and somehow or other we've got to get across this river, all right? Now, the river is too wide and too deep for us to cross it without any sort of intermediate. So, but if somebody comes and puts a nice few stones in the middle of the river that we can jump across, okay, we can get to the other side. And that's the way I think about it. So first of all, Baruch Hashem, wonderful, because the mitzvot, which we do, even if it's not for its own sake, actually, first of all, do tikkun haolam. I mean, just from the perspective of the soldiers get the salad, all right? So that's fantastic. They get the salad, all right? So obviously that's a win. It's better than not doing it and nobody gets anything, all right? So the soldiers get the salad. So that's already a win because that's tikkun olam, all right? Now, the only thing one needs to do then is to work a little bit on the intention. Now, that's not very easy to do because of the problems that we've talked about. The intention of what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Can I intend for the sake of giving? Pure intention only for the sake of giving without thinking about myself is extremely difficult. And in fact, I think actually comes from grace, that's the blessing. Okay, that's the grace, that's the blessing. But what one can do is one can say to God, okay, God, I can see that I have within myself my will to receive myself alone, and it's not completely pure. Can you help me purify it? That's it. Because ultimately, it's not really in our hands. We can only do our best, and we ask God to help us finish it. Okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah, great.
Question. Wonderful. Now I have a question.
Yes. Another question. Good.
Yeah. What is so bad to feel good about giving to someone? Why is it bad?
It's not bad at all.
The intention is just to pure giving, helping. But then if you feel good about it, what is it? It's not intention to do it to feel good. The intention is to give. But then I feel good about it. What's bad about it?
There's nothing bad about it at all.
No.
On the contrary, we need to feel good about it.
Right.
Okay. So you actually got the answer in your question, by the way. All right. All right. You said, my intention is not to pleasure myself, but once I've done it, I feel good. Yes. Right. Because there are two, in fact, types of light that God gives us. One is called the Or de Chochmah, which is the light which pleasures our will to receive. Okay, that's what's the original light in creation. But there is another light, okay, which is actually more subtle, but it's definitely there, which is called the Or de Chasadim, the light of loving kindness. And what Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag calls the joy of giving. Okay? And that's the joy you're describing, that when I've done the action, I feel good. Yes, we should feel good because God is giving us the joy of giving. And we have to be grateful for that as well. It's a different type of light. It's got a different frequency. Okay. The joy, if I can describe the frequency a little bit, I think you would recognize it. The desire to receive is a tremendously powerful desire, okay? But somehow it's got a bit of worry attached to it. Am I doing the right thing, not doing the right thing, whatever? But when we do something good, unconditionally, it just works out that way. We get a pleasure from it, which lasts forever, and there's no worry attached. It's just a wonderful feeling that I'm so glad I did it. And there's no worry attached. It's just a quiet, good feeling, which is there forever. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I agree with it totally.
That's right. Well, there you go.
As
You're busy
long
doing
as
it. That's why.
the intention is not I'm doing it because I will feel good.
That's right. But the desire to give unconditionally does have a light attached, and it's the joy of giving, and
right.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Wonderful. Wow, wonderful. You know, we've only got 10 minutes left, and your question woke up in me a bit of learning that I did during the week with a friend on Pirkei Avot. And she reminded me that it was Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, Yortzeit. I think it must have been, when did I learn that? Yesterday. Kol hakavod, Tatjana. Kol hakavod, absolutely. It was yesterday. So I would like to finish our learning today by the first verse in the Pirkei Avot chapter 6. All right, where Rabbi Meir discusses what Torah lishma, giving for the unconditionally, gives a person. Okay, what is the consequences? So let me just find it. Pirkei Avot. Chapter Vav, here we go. There we go. Right, now I can share my screen. How do I do that now? Do that now. There must be a way. There we go. All right, there we go. Fantastic. All right, there we go. Pirkei Avot, chapter 6. All right. Rabbi Meir Omer. Okay, Rabbi Meir says, Kol ha'osek b'Torah lishma. Everyone who practices the Torah, okay, so that's learning it, it's giving in faith, it's giving unconditionally, it's moving in that direction, okay? All of us are trying to move in that direction. Zochel dvarim harbei, merits many things, okay? So yeah, there is definitely light associated with it. ולא עוד, אלא שכל העולם כולו כדאי הוא לו. Not only that, but the whole world is worthwhile for him. He's happy to be in this physical world. He's happy to be in the world because he's happy to find, because there's so many opportunities to practice the Torah and the mitzvot for their own sake. So he's happy to be here. Nikra Rea, he's called a neighbor or a friend. Ahuv, he's beloved. Ohev et hamakom, he loves God. Ohev et habriot, he loves his fellow human being. Mesamech et hamakom, gives pleasure to God. Why? Because he's in affinity of form. Mesamech et habriot, gives pleasure to the created beings. Malbashto anava v'yirah. He's clothed in humility and reverence. Umachsharto liot tzaddik, chassid, yashar v'ne'eman. He's fitted to be a tzaddik. What is a tzaddik? That he justifies God. Like he says, you know, God, I don't understand what October the 7th was about. I really don't understand it. And it's painful. But I accept that you're the one running the world. That's the tzaddik. The chassid, the pious, that he does gemilut chasadim, acts of loving kindness. He's yashar, he's honest, v'ne'eman, and faithful. Amarachakto min hachet, his practice of the Torah keeps him far away from sin. Amakarvto lidei zechut, and brings him close to merit, being close to God, close to in affinity of form. Nehenim mimenu eitzah v'tushia, bina ugvura. And people get from him eitzah is good counsel. Tushia, wow. I looked that up. Do you know, and it's fled from my memory. What is Tushia? 1 second, sorry, I can't remember. Tushia. Oh, right. Tushia is he keeps going with determination until he gets to his, like he doesn't give up. He keeps going. All right. He doesn't give up. All right. Bina, he takes his life, he takes events, he takes the Torah, and he goes over them in his mind. He reflects on them. He deals deeply with things. Bina, hitbonanut, he contemplates. Gvura, he overcomes with might his own will to receive. Because don't imagine that the tzaddikim suddenly don't have a will to receive. That's actually not the case. They say, call everybody who becomes greater, his will to receive also becomes greater. So he needs his gvura, he needs his putting limits on his own will to receive, because his will to receive grows together with him. Shneema, li eitzah v'tushia, ani bina li gvura. I have good counsel and perseverance. I am bina, contemplation. I have the ability to overcome. V'notenet lo malchut memshala, and the Torah, which is practiced for its own sake, gives him malchut, the ability to govern himself. Chikur din, the ability to discover, to understand things correctly, and act as a judge if necessary. Torah, and from above, they open to him the inner meanings of the Torah. He becomes like an overflowing spring, a spring which never ever ceases. Okay, like a river which never ceases. He is humble, he's modest, long-suffering. He pardons an insult. Okay, and the Torah itself raises him up and makes him great over all actions. That's amazing. You know, if you get if you can find, Pirkei Avot, it's the last of chapter, Pirkei Avot. It's also called Kinyan Torah, and it's got all the different ways in which Torah is acquired. Torah for its own sake is acquired in the rest of the chapters. An amazing chapter. We read it. It's not part of Masechet Avot. It's interesting. The Mishnah has itself. The Mishnah, the Masechet in the Mishnah has 5 chapters. Okay, and this one, the 6th one, was not part of the formal Mishnah. It's called a Baraita, which is outside the formal Mishnah, but we read it always the week before Shavuot. Why? Because it tells us about the Torah. It tells us what the reward of the Torah here is, and the reward is how to be a giver. Okay, it's brilliant. It tells us how to be a giver. All right, okay, Torah Lishma. And then the rest of the Perek Vav is how to get to that level. It's a beautiful, beautiful Perek. All right. So, yeah, I think it's something one can print out and stick on one's fridge, to be honest, because it's very, very, very inspiring. Wow. So this would be the blessing. If we want to know what is the blessing which comes from keeping the Torah in faith, this is the blessing. Amen. Wonderful.
Amen. Thank you so much.
You're very, very, very welcome. Thank you all so much for your flexibility. I double booked. It was my fault. I double booked.
It's not going to be normally this time, or I don't know.
No. What happened was I double booked. I actually have a meeting with somebody in America, and I didn't notice, and I booked it at sort of like to overlap with our normal time. So I thought, okay, I don't want to miss you guys.
I was just lucky to get it like 5 minutes. I was only a couple of minutes late.
Right. I know. I'm sorry about that. Nicole, I wanted to ask you: Is this time convenient for you? Is it better than the other time? How is it? How is this time for you?
Yeah, for me it's fine.
For you, it's fine. Okay, great. What about everybody else?
Other people in America?
Sorry?
I don't know what it's like for people in America.
I don't know either. I'll have to find out.
It's a very different time. For me, it's an hour earlier, and it's not a problem for me.
Okay, great. All right, fine. Fantastic. And what about you, Menchi? You're in Holland at the moment.
It's okay.
It's okay.
So good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you.
Oh, hi, Menchi. When are you coming back? We miss you.
Yes. Yeah. Soon, I hope.
Okay, amen. We miss you. We need you here.
Yes.
Yeah. That's wonderful. All right. Yeah, we miss you all.
Shalom.
Okay, very good.
Okay,
all
thank
right,
you.
my dear
Shabbat
ones.
shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat shalom.
Thank
Have a
you.
lovely
Shabbat
day.
shalom.
And everything
Shalom.
else.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.